Welcome back to Healing Out Loud. My name is Elizabeth, aka Ellie, and I am your very human and fallible licensed mental health counselor. And this is my sister Christina, who is a somatic practitioner. We have both made many mistakes and we struggle just like any other person. Today, we're going to talk about everyone's favorite subject, which is definitely narcissism. It is viral right now. Everybody wants to call somebody a narcissist. Christina, have you noticed people using this word for things that aren't actually that? This is one of the
Oh,
subjects you and I have talked about numerous times.
yeah, I think everybody uses it wrong. I think everybody just says it to say it and calls everybody one. I think what people forget is that we all have narcissistic tendencies. And just because we do something that might be considered narcissistic doesn't make us a narcissist.
So what do you say? What would you say comes to mind when you hear someone say he's a narcissist or she's a narcissist when they're dismissing specifically the ex? People always want to call their ex or their parents narcissists.
Um, well, it's different. The ex and the parents are two totally different things. I think when people call their ex that, what they're trying to get across is how bad the relationship was and potentially how manipulative it was. But again, just because somebody's manipulative doesn't mean that they're a narcissist.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think ultimately people mean well when saying it. They just want the validation that they had a bad experience in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think it eliminates the need to take accountability for their part in that relationship.
Do you think that people even understand that it's actually a clinical diagnosis? Or do you
No,
think that people just
no.
think it's a personality trait? Just like bipolar, people want to throw the bipolar word around like they know what it
I
means,
think
and most people have it wrong.
I think it's just an internet word that everybody likes. It just sounds good. I don't think anybody knows it's an actual diagnosis.
Agreed. Agreed.
I think if you asked, I would say 76% of people what the DSM-5 is,
It's a
they'd be
very
like,
specific number,
I,
76%.
I don't. Yes, 70s. It's a new stat I made up today. Yeah, I just don't think people have ever heard of the DSM-5 and they don't understand that there's criteria for that diagnosis that only a licensed professional can give
Okay, but I would
to.
I would argue that maybe it's just because of my job. I feel like most people do know that there's a diagnostic criteria. Do they know it's called the DSM-5? No. But I feel like people, and this goes back to the stuff that I talk about in my content all the time, is that I feel like people think that knowing is actually healing. And so people recognize that this is a diagnosis, but they don't recognize that you genuinely have to meet a specific criteria to fall in that category. And nobody's qualified to diagnose somebody except for that person's therapist. That people want to come to me all the time and say, "Can you tell?" They want me to tell them that their husband or their ex is a narcissist, and I'm like, I'm not qualified to make that judgment. I
Right.
don't know that person. I only know your perception of that person.
Well, right. And I think the other part to that is that, I mean, I don't have an actual statistic. I can make one up again, but the amount of narcissistic actual people who are should be diagnosed with it don't go to counseling to
Right.
get diagnosed.
Right.
So there's no telling how many people are actually, let's say, cluster B personalities that are diagnosed with it,
Mm-hmm.
because they're egotistical and they don't think they need therapy. They think you're the problem. So yeah, I mean, you can bring any story you want to a therapist, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that therapist can say, yep, they're just like you couldn't say if somebody's child was autistic without having the elements of a diagnosis done.
Right. And I can tell you in my 17 years of practice, I've worked with hundreds of people, and I have only had one person that I believe is a narcissist come in, very self-aware, and actually ask the question, "Do you think?" And it actually took me several sessions to come to the conclusion that I did believe that, but that's not a diagnosis that I would actually throw around. When I feel like somebody, this is how I practice. When I feel like somebody might have a personality disorder, I send them right to a psychiatrist so they can do the actual testing to make an
Hmm.
assessment. I don't want to make an assessment like any personality disorder. I don't want to make an assessment. I feel like it's irresponsible of me as a clinician because what I do as a counselor, as a mental health counselor, is very relative in terms of I have to make a personal assessment, and another licensed therapist might have a completely different opinion. So if we go to
Mhm.
actual testing from a psychologist or a psychiatrist, I feel like it's a more accurate or accurate assessment. That's a personal preference clinically.
Well, I mean, well, if you want to get into it, I think that we've gotten into a label culture. And I think you titled this podcast, Is My Ex a Narcissist? Let's say he is. What now? Like, I mean, that's the thing is like, so what if he has a label or she has a label? It doesn't change the dynamic of the relationship and how hurt you are because of it.
Right.
And then there's a healing that goes along with it. It's just like when people need closure in a relationship. What does that closure actually gain you? Do you think you're going to wake up and feel better one day? Do you think you're going to miraculously be like, I'm not hurt anymore because somebody's actually diagnosed as a
Right.
narcissist or borderline personality disorder? And yeah, so I, yes, I believe an actual licensed person should diagnose a narcissist if, in fact, they are seeking help to be better in future relationships.
Hmm.
Do I think that's happening around the globe? No.
No, because
And
most
so,
narcissists will never have the insight to even consider, because the grandiosity is you don't understand me because you're not on my level, is the
well,
majority.
and you correct me if I'm wrong, but even if somebody had the comfort to go in to be diagnosed as a narcissist, one of the most powerful things about a narcissist is they can't sit in the discomfort for long. They need to find that comfort back. So even if they were going through the process of being diagnosed, the odds of them actually following through with all of it before they retreated back into patterns that were comfortable for them are most likely it's not gonna follow through the entire diagnosis.
I have theorized that a few people in my life may or may not have been narcissists, but even as a clinician, my judgment, like I really have, I would never say that, because as a clinician I have a responsibility to keep that stuff to myself, because people take it, they don't take it with a grain of salt when I say the word. But and when it's you can't really, like, I'm in it, so can I really see it? No. So, and I'm also not qualified because I'm not their therapist.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
just like any other human being, sometimes I want to justify. I need to have clarity as to what exactly it is that happened with my parents or with my ex or with my best friend. Like, and if I can say that they were a narcissist, then, well, clearly it all makes sense, and I don't have any responsibility in that. Which takes me to um, the next controversial talking point, which is calling an ex a narcissist or a parent a narcissist an easier story than admitting your own role in the demise of a relationship, which is kind of what you were just touching on.
Well, I mean, I think with calling it an ex a narcissist, what you leave room for is people being invalidated who are actually in genuine narcissistic relationships. So if it makes you feel better to call somebody a narcissist, that's fine. But what goes along with that word is severe manipulation, severe mind control, severe loss of your own self.
Hmm.
And while you may feel parts of that in a relationship by labeling this relationship as I was in a narcissistic relationship, for me, when I hear that, I go right to, oh my God, you need help. Like, I need to help you. You need a hug. You need to, like, figure. And not everybody who's been in a bad or toxic relationship has gone through the mind control, the controlling behaviors, the manipulation, the cheating, the whatever goes along with narcissism. And so I think by everybody labeling their ex as a narcissist, it leaves too much room for the people who actually genuinely have been abused by a narcissistic person to really feel invalidated, because everybody's been with a narcissist and everybody's breaking up with a narcissist, and the whole internet has narcissists in their lives. And the people who've genuinely gone through that are maybe experiencing something where they're like, oh, well, if this is common, then maybe, my thing wasn't that bad. Maybe what I
Hmm.
went through wasn't that bad. And then they start justifying or validating.
I can say that I strongly believe that life is 10% what happens to you, and 90% how you perceive it. So if somebody comes to me and says that they believe they were in a narcissistic relationship, I'm going to validate that. Like,
Of
I'm not
course,
I'm
of
not going to
course.
I'm not going to tell them yes they were a narcissist or no they were a narcissist, but I'm going to validate the fact that clearly you were hurt in that relationship. So let's talk about that. I do try to
But
educate.
also,
Go ahead.
also trying to hold somebody accountable for their behaviors in a relationship, if it is genuine manipulation. So, I mean, sometimes people don't even know that's happening to them. And it could be intelligent, independent, strong people who just didn't see it coming. And we discredit how dangerous that is for people.
Hmm.
And so that's the part where I don't know that I would say to somebody like, "Oh, well, let's talk about your part in this and how you got yourself down this road." Because sometimes in a not really narcissistic relationship, you do have responsibility and accountability, and you're still in your right mind to be able to see that.
There
Somebody
is,
who's,
you know this as a practitioner, that there is
mm-hmm,
a finesse that comes from this. Like,
yeah,
I'm going to start with validating that person. And if I slowly start to unravel, like, I can see some things here. But once the rapport is established and the validation has been offered, at that point, I'm going to slowly start nudging and be like, I see some things. Like, and it's
yeah,
not to say that your person wasn't a narcissist because it's irrelevant, but I can also see where you may or may not have played a role in some of these situations. But honestly, even if it is a narcissistic relationship, you probably still played a role. Like, I probably, if I, even if I wasn't with a narcissist, I probably still had something to do with some of the issues in that relationship, because none of us are perfect. One of the things that I had on the list, do you think that people are drawn to narcissists because of something unresolved within themselves, or is it more that the narcissist is simply skilled at finding vulnerable people?
oh, I think two things can be true at the same time.
Right.
um, yeah, I think genuine narcissists are very skilled at finding people who might be portraying vulnerabilities that are a target.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think that there are people, no matter how strong willed and independent they are, that want love so badly that they accept things too early and allow behaviors to be dismissed too early in a relationship without holding space for boundaries or respect or, and those, I think in the beginning of any narcissistic relationship, you have two parties who are trying to learn about the other person.
Mm-hmm.
And the narcissist is learning, what can I get out of this? How far can I take this? And little things may come up. Maybe they cancel last minute and they want to see how you react to that, right? Or maybe they say they're going to be there at a certain time and they're late and they want to see how you react to that. And if you're like, oh, that's okay, or you dismiss what your needs are in that moment, you've just taught somebody that you're somebody that they can be late or cancel plans last minute. And to me, a narcissist would enjoy that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
great, this is wonderful. I can tell her I'll be there at 8 and show up at 10 and she'll be fine with it, or he'll
Right.
be fine with it. So yeah, I mean, I think in a situation like that, which is super basic and it could be on the first date, well, there you have it. I mean, both parties are playing a role in there that creates the perfect
Right.
situation
Right.
for this to continue happening.
This takes me into the love bombing. Because, okay,
Yeah.
so typically there's gonna be a sequence of events. It's gonna begin with like, oh, I love you. Guys, if you want to know what to watch out for early in a relationship, when somebody is extremely complimentary or generous or accommodating, um, the love bombing is real. Like, you're gonna know if you really pay attention and you're really honest with yourself, you're gonna know this is not normal and it's not sustainable. And then once they've won you over, tell me, what are you thinking?
No, I see it so often. It's so abundantly clear to me when it's happening. And no matter how many times I say, slow down, give it a couple months, people just don't listen.
No, because it feels good. There's a dopamine rush that comes from that. And
Well,
normally,
also, you can't take away from the fact that the people looking for this, like, they probably haven't been loved their whole life the way they've
right,
wanted to, and so
right,
they're accepting it, and that's good that you still have the ability to accept this love, but it's a bomb that's going to
right,
explode.
right. So what'll typically happen is, well, first of all, they're picking people who they know who's been loved and who hasn't been loved, because the person that receives that kind of love bombing, like, they already know they have you hook, line, and sinker, because somebody who's
Mm-hmm.
healthy, who's securely attached, is going to be like, dude, I don't, this is not going to work for me. I need something a little bit more rational, something a little bit more stable, because I know you can't do this forever. But somebody who's dying for love, who's vulnerable, is going to fall right into the trap. And typically, any abusive pattern, whether it's a narcissistic abuse or not, the or the abusive pattern is, you're going to push the envelope, just like you said. And they're looking for a point in the relationship where they feel secure enough to know that you're not going anywhere. So for some of them, major life events that might happen, some of them it might be once they move in together. I gotcha. And now it's all gonna unravel, and it's gonna start with the trauma bond, which is
Oh,
also
okay.
misused. So what'll start to happen is, okay, I gotcha, and then they start with the abusive behaviors. Whether it's a narcissist or not, they start with the abusive behaviors. Sometimes it's women, sometimes it's men, but they'll start with, now I have you. It might
Yeah.
be that the part where
Yeah.
you move in together. It might be the point when you get married. It might be the point when you have a child. Those are major events that will frequently start the abuse cycle. Will start the trauma bond. And what a trauma bond is, because most people think they know what it is, and it is not what most people think that it is. A trauma bond is the cycle of abuse and repair. So I'm gonna push the envelope, and as soon as I start seeing you at a point where you're like, I don't think I can handle this anymore, then I'm gonna send you flowers, and I'm gonna kiss you and love you.
Breadcrumbs.
Then comes the breadcrumbs, right? So, and then as soon as they feel like they have you lured back in, I'm gonna start with the abuse cycle again. That is a trauma bond. When you get hooked on, we will we will thirst so much, humans will thirst so much for that repair, for the new cycle of love bombing, that we will tolerate the abuse because we're dying for it to come back around full circle. It literally releases dopamine when that repair cycle happens. So it
Hmm.
can become addictive, and it's very hard to walk away once that trauma bond has been established. And whether or not they're conscious of it, I think abusers, this is a maybe a controversial opinion, but I think abusers in general know what they're doing, but I think narcissists might not even realize it. It's innate. I'm not 100% sure on that. There's no studies, but that's my personal opinion on that one.
Any of it can be true. There aren't studies on,
There might
you
be, but I
can't
haven't
study it.
found them. But
Yeah.
that is the trauma bond that most people, I think, misunderstand. If we go into the actual diagnostic criteria, in order to be diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder, there are several characteristics of a narcissist. And whether or not they're actually a narcissist or not, they all hit the same way. It hurts regardless. So that's why I would validate anybody that thinks they were in a narcissistic relationship, even if they weren't. Typically, when children are born to a narcissist, the relationship implodes because now they have to share the attention with a child. And they
Hmm.
think that that's fantastic until they realize that's taking attention away from me, and that's not going to fly. So usually it will implode at that point. Which brings me to the covert and the overt. That's another
Okay.
one I think a lot of people don't understand. So for covert narcissists and overt narcissists, many people don't even know that that's a thing, but a covert narcissist is one that gives zero fucks. Like, they don't care who knows that they're a narcissist. They're going to showboat it all over the place, and they're going to make sure that you know that they are the best thing on the planet. The covert narcissist, I personally believe, is the more dangerous one, and that's the one who knows what they're supposed to be looking, how they're supposed to look, how they're supposed to act, and they act that way in public, and they act that way when they first meet their partner, but then behind closed doors they show their ass. But when their partner tells people, like, this is going on, that's going on, people look at them and go, I can't even believe that like, I could never picture him acting that way, I could never
Hmm.
picture her acting that way. And you're like, but, and then you start to think you're crazy because
Hmm.
maybe it's not what it looks like. Maybe I'm losing my mind. Maybe he's really is awesome. And then comes the cycle all over again.
I mean, yeah, I've dealt with my fair share of narcissistic people. I think our father was definitely an overt narcissist, or I'm sorry, a covert narcissist. I think everybody would tell you he'd give you the shirt off his back, and he was the kindest guy. And God, Bob this and Bob that. But I lived with them and that wasn't what I went home to every day.
No.
So, yeah, I've had experience with that. I think it's very dangerous. I did feel crazy as a child. I did feel like, oh, my dad is the nicest man in the world. And I see him in public and he is. He's so kind and has like such a big heart. Still to this day, family members will be like, no, your dad was wonderful. And I'm like, okay. And he was. He did have a big heart, just not at home. So, yeah. And then as far as I think for me, it's been friends that I've been like, the ego on that one is a bit, overwhelming, where it is just grandiose and outward. And a very dear girlfriend of mine dated a person that was very much like that. He had to be the center of attention, extremely abusive towards her, but openly. I mean, he didn't hide it from
That's an
anybody.
overt, yeah.
Yeah, and so yeah, I've experienced both. I can't say one's worse than the other. I mean, I could give you the opinion that one might feel worse than the other, but I think they're just both horrifying. And it's horrifying to treat people, whether you're doing it in public and embarrassing the person or you're doing it in behind closed doors and making them feel crazy. I think it's pretty just a terrible thing.
So you mentioned dad, which brings me to a a talking point of there is a difference between having a narcissistic partner and being raised by a narcissistic
Oh yeah.
parent.
Oh
And
yeah, 100%.
it's like it's not, neither one is right, but it hits totally different when you're raised in a narcissistic environment because as a kid you don't have a barometer. You don't know anything different. So you
Mhm.
genuinely do think that you're crazy.
Or you don't know that anything is off.
Right, because there's no frame of reference.
Yeah, especially I think for me, which was interesting, and I'm not trying to bring up like we don't have to talk about dad. I mean, the poor man's been dead for 20 years. Like I mean, it just was an observation of mine.
Mhm.
That's all. But I think for me as a child, like we weren't really allowed to go have sleepovers at other people's houses. I mean, even into my teenage years. So I really didn't have a barometer because I didn't see normal families. So like mine was the most normal.
Right, right.
Like I didn't know that other families didn't have this kind of parent in the home.
Mhm.
I guess I just thought everybody did.
It's our norm. Yeah, and then
Yeah.
as we grow into civilization, and even for you, you started to realize it in high school, and at that point you were like, no, fuck this shit, I'm out. So
Yeah.
so as soon as once we realize like this isn't healthy, I think I might need to try another way. It's like life's mission to get out and experience what it's supposed to look like. But I think that a
Well, I
lot.
mean, even in that situation though, I felt like I needed to hide. I felt like he couldn't know where I was, otherwise it would be dangerous for me. Like so, I don't know. I think there's similarities to trying to leave a narcissistic relationship with the partner or with the parent. I mean,
Danger is important to highlight, though. I think a lot of people don't. I think people in it realize the danger, but a lot of people on the outside do not understand. Like, you have to be, if you're going to leave a narcissist, you have to be very methodical because they are savage. If they are a true narcissist, they will. There's a whole what's the new pop language on this one? The smear campaign. That's the pop language. The
oh,
smear
okay. I've
campaign.
heard that. Yes, I've
So
heard that.
so that's when that because now they know everything about you at this point. They can
Yeah,
hold anything against you. So if you've left them and you've taken their supply away, they're going to do everything, and they're a true narcissist. You're always in danger of them doing everything they can to sabotage your reputation and your
yeah,
livelihood. So it needs to be super methodical and careful when that decision is made. It needs, honestly, if you're in a situation with a narcissist and you think you're ready to get out, you should really have professional help. Having your own therapist, making sure that your friends know what's going on. It can be a very dangerous situation. So it's not something you just want to impulsively pull the plug, especially if there's children involved. Because one of the wildest things that I've seen in those types of divorces is because they don't want to compete with their children. It's mind-blowing that they fight so hard for their children, but it's to maintain control over the supply. Like, so, okay, fine, you left, but I'm going to control you with these children. I'm not going to pay child support, whatever the case. I'm going to continue financially abusing you, financially controlling you, and controlling you with the kids, because why not? Because I can. Then it all
That's my
unravels
childhood
there.
in a nutshell.
Right. Do you think that most people picture the narcissist like walking into therapy and coming out different? Do you think most people believe that that's possible?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people have so much hope. I think that's what keeps everybody holding on. It is the hope that there is possibility of change. And I think
Yeah.
a narcissist is really good about being like, well, fine, if you want me to go to therapy, I'll go to therapy. And they say the words that give you hope and then never follow through. Um, do I think that happens? That they go to therapy and get diagnosed and come out trying to work on themselves? No, no, I don't. And I could be wrong about that. I don't study that, but I don't think
Well,
so.
what pops in my head is those content creators that are like, I used to be a narcissist and now.
And not everything on the internet is true.
No, stop it.
Yeah,
It's a
I'm
lie. It's a
I'm not
lie.
even kidding. No, it's not all true. Content
So
is content, and people make it because it's in, or like not everything is true.
be
I'm
smoke
sorry.
screens. Could be smoke screens. But these are theoretical things. Most of what I wanted to talk about
I
today was that.
I have seen one. I'm trying to recall because it was a long time ago. He was probably the most honest person saying that he was a recovered narcissist, but the reason why I felt like he was genuinely telling his truth is because if I recall correctly, I wish I could remember his like tagline because I think everybody should go check him out if you're going to look for one who's recovered and have a conversation with him. It was like 6 years of therapy that before he was even willing to be out in public being like, I'm recovered or
Hmm.
recovering still. And he was so honest about what he did. And I believe his wife came on and told stories about, and they're still together. And so that seemed really genuinely true to me.
So the possibility exists.
Oh, for sure it does. But we're talking 8 billion people on the planet,
The
and this one
likelihood
guy
is
got my
not good. It's not likely. There have been, obviously, everybody, a lot of the people that I work with come thinking that they're in a narcissistic relationship. And most of the time, I can easily validate the narcissistic characteristics that they're sharing with me, because there's three sides to every story. There's yours, his, and then somewhere in the middle is the truth. But some of the things
Mhm.
that I have heard, there's been two cases where like there's zero doubt in my mind. And it's very difficult to work with that situation because you can't say it. You know what I'm saying? It would be it there was one occurrence where I was like the abuse was so overt, like there was no, I had to validate it. Like it was mind-blowing the amount of control that this person had over their ex-spouse at that point. I was there for the whole like before the divorce, during the divorce, and after the divorce, and it just, even a year and a half later, he still maintained control through the kids, through the finances. It was mind blowing, and and this person's nervous system was like putting a thought together couldn't even happen. A year afterwards, like the damage
Mhm.
that this does to us is unbearable. So when
Yeah.
it actually is a true narcissistic relationship, what it does to a person's brain, you can't put a thought together. And that's the game. That's the goal. Is they keep you going so high and so fast that you don't have the ability to see rationally. Because if you could, then they know you would go. So they keep
Right.
the abuse to make you think you're crazy. And there
Right.
is no
Right.
rational thought.
No, very true. It's brain fog. That's all it is. It's like you're just survival. You're just in survival mode and you're trying to survive another day.
Mhm.
That's it.
Mhm. There's been two, maybe three cases like that where I'm just it's almost, even on my side with my training, it almost feels like I feel like I'm failing them. because every time we start to get somewhere, it gets undone by the abuse. Like the
Hmm.
power and control, it's like we finally start to like calm the nervous system down, understand what's going on, and then boom, something else happens and it just starts the spiral all over again. And I feel it has nothing to do with me, but I feel like I'm failing them. And
Hmm.
it hurts. I'm not supposed to be emotionally invested, but it hurts to see them go through. It's a very manipulative and just mean. Like
Yeah.
it hurt. Have you watched somebody professionally or personally go through it on this level?
So I have two examples in my mind. One of them is somebody who was able to leave. They didn't have children. It was a divorce, so it was drawn out. It was overwhelming. Um, Without the children, they could do the whole gray rock thing, right?
I
And
forgot that one.
I think for me as a friend, because I was not treating this person, but for me as a friend, I was very adamant about giving yourself space and time
Hmm.
because I don't think people, when people are done with a narcissist, they want it to end right now.
Yeah.
Um, and I would say minimally 2 to 3 years before your nervous system can come back on board.
Sure, it's over.
A
Not
100%
yeah.
after the last time that you're with them. Um, and I don't think people want it to last that long. I think people want to feel loved again, and they usually jump into relationships that most likely they're just hoping will be better, but pretty typically aren't. Um, but watching the process it was painful. I mean, I had compassion for this person and empathy for this person. Um, but I didn't have any doubts that it was going to be an insane amount of time before they could heal from it. I had seen this person, she had a handprint on her neck from being choked one night. This was a very dear friend of mine, and I went and picked her up from that. It was the third time I picked her up from that kind of abuse.
Hmm.
And she would go back. And in the beginning, I judged that. And I'm not going to lie and say I was perfect at handling the situation. I wasn't. But I would say that's probably the first time I started even researching narcissism and
Hmm.
learning about what it was. And that's when I learned a lot about, my childhood and stuff. And I'm 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 certainly not diagnosing my childhood, but I learned a lot from it. But with this relationship, I think once I realized that she was so manipulated and so broken, um, and I hope that's not offensive. I don't mean it in an offensive way, but that she was so far gone and broken that her pain couldn't be my pain.
Hmm.
Almost that I wanted to be strong for her, to be like, when you're ready, I'm still here for you. Um, and yeah, I mean, it took years before she left, and then it took years before she healed. So yeah, I witnessed a lot of it.
Hmm. The process can be
But
difficult for the social contact, for the people in your life too.
well, if as just as a somatic practitioner, which I am certainly not qualified to handle this on my own by any means, I would highly recommend therapy and stuff. But to begin your nervous system regulation, there's a very simple tool that I would give you, and that is connection with healthy people.
Hmm.
Because I think isolating yourself is something that happens commonly. You feel broken, you feel diseased, you feel, dark. And I believe surrounding yourself with people that love you, and I know they can't always be there at night while you're sleeping when the pain is the worst, but
Hmm.
during the day when people can be there, um, you know, it's the most time you can fill with people who love you and remind you that you're a good person. I think it minimizes Well, I think it would at least minimize some of the time that you're healing from this, knowing that you are a person and loved and cared for. And so, yeah, I would say surround yourself with as many people. Even if it's Tuesday at 10, I met Matt, and Tuesday at 11:30, I met Jess, and then Tuesday at 12:15, I met just keep driving your friends and be around them and let them help you heal.
Experience healthy so that you can start to
Well,
learn what
it's
it
it's
is.
reminding the nervous system that there's safety in others.
Mm-hmm.
By isolating yourself for months on end to try to heal this on your own, you can't feel safe because you don't feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
By allowing yourself, even if it's 30 seconds in the hour meeting you just had with Matt or Jess or whoever, it's a way to physically show your body that there is safety in people. And you just have to be around those people enough
Mm-hmm.
for your body to remember that there is safety
Right.
available to you.
Accessible. All right, I have a little bit more, but we've run over on time. So I think today we're going to wrap it up. We're going to probably go over some more of this topic in future podcasts. But for today, we appreciate you guys showing up. But don't forget, whether or not someone is actually a narcissist doesn't change the damage that the narcissistic behaviors can cause in a relationship. But until next time, don't forget that hurt people can heal people. Have a good night, guys.